Everywhere we go in the basin, from our beaches to our backyards, our favorite forest trails to our daily commute, there are rocks. Boulders, cobblestone, gravel, slabs, pebbles, talus, all with different textures and colors and shapes. Lots and lots and lots of rocks. For such a prominent feature of our landscape, rocks seem to go rather unnoticed. Sure, we might point out the more spectacular ones, a geometrically perfect granite peak, a basketball-sized chunk of quartz. Maybe you collect heart-shaped rocks for your loved ones. But compared to the trees, flowers, snowfields, and waterways that make up the stunning landscapes of the basin, we seem to gloss over rocks. Perhaps because it's one element that never seems to change, and they don't generally move on their own. They're inanimate. But I've been trying to look at Kootenay geology in another way. On a beach where I like to swim, there's a cluster of rocks that resemble giant books. Sedimentary layers of fine brown, gray, and white stacked on top of each other like pages. I believe it's gneiss, a coarse-grained metamorphic rock, deposited silt and sand that's been transformed within the earth from heat and pressure over time. These rocks sit at the water's edge and are surrounded by thousands of rounded pebbles of various colors and type. There are stones of granite and quartz, feldspar and basalt. These igneous rocks were formed by magma cooling and crystallizing over time, and they've been broken down, shaped and polished by glaciers and water over millennia. The more I look at them, the contrast between these rocks is profound. Each one has been on an individual monumental adventure that has taken hundreds of millions of years, like wise elder. The scene looks like a library of sorts, or a rock concert if I want to get all super literal. Shouldn't we want to read and listen? They all have a tale to tell us. Their ancient stories date back to the formation of our planet. Some were once hot, boiling lava deep in the Earth's core. Now they're rounded, smooth, almost soft underfoot. Some the most perfect skipping stones you'll ever find. So while we celebrate the amazing people, plants, animals, history, and waters of the basin, we want to pay tribute to the rocks, our oldest and most storied companions. Welcome to our episode on Rock Talk. I'm Mitchell Scott, Editor-in-Chief at Kootenay Mountain Culture Productions, and this is The Headwaters, brought to you by Columbia Basin Trust. In this episode, we're talking about geology, specifically the rock formations that make the Columbia Basin such a fun place for outdoor adventure. We're going to speak to some Kootenay rock climbers directly responsible for putting this region on the map. And you'll also meet a local First Nations chief and hear his take on rock, from hot springs to rock cliffs. We're going to start with an exploration of rock climbing. What used to be a fringe activity back in the 60s and 70s is now one of the most popular sports in the world. As of 2000, it's been in the Olympics, and climbing has been increasing in users for decades now. But the past 5 years have been especially explosive. In the basin, the climbing hotspot is the West Kootenay, specifically in the Castlegar and Nelson area. Some say the growth in rock climbing here is faster than any place else in Canada. We sent our reporter Jamie Moy to investigate. Jamie, hello and welcome back to the Headwaters Podcast.
Hey, Mitch. Thanks. It's great to be back.
So, you're a climber, right?
Yes. I started climbing in university and have done it on and off ever since.
Are you currently on or off?
On. Definitely on. I'm actually the vice president of the Kootenay Climbing Association.
Oh, that sounds quite important. Okay, so what is it about West Kootenay rock that makes climbing so popular?
Well, there's a ton of high-quality rock to climb around here, but I think it's more about the people. We've got some really keen locals who are setting new climbing routes even faster than we can document. I'm talking brand new cliffs being discovered and then hundreds of new routes being developed, like every season.
Well, that's kind of insane. Who are these people?
Hi.
Hey!
How's it going?
Good, Jamie.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
You too.
I've seen you before a couple times.
Hey. That's Nick Williams, Mitch. Nick and his brother Ryan have been on an absolute tear setting new climbing routes in the West Kootenay. They grew up in Revelstoke, but both found their way to Nelson as adults, Nick 8 years ago and Ryan 3. I met up with them in the Slocan Valley on a Forest Service road called Norns. They led me on a 20-minute hike through the forest to see their latest route development project, a series of granite cliffs they're calling the Empire Wall, which is really more like 5 or 6 walls. Whoa.
What's that?
This is the Empire Wall.
Yeah, this is the first sort of main wall, but then there's like cliffs go out that way for probably another couple hundred meters. And then there's a smaller bluff there, and then there's a whole nother tier on top as well.
What is it about this rock face that indicates this would be a good place for climbing?
It's like a really clean rock face. There isn't a lot of like loose rock on it. And it's like 30 to 35 meters tall, so it's a full rope length of climbing, which is, nice. It's nice to have longer routes. And then the other cool thing about this wall is it's mainly crack climbing, so it's just these like the linear cracks splitting the wall that you can climb up, and then there's very few features in between those cracks, so it's it makes just for really like kind of interesting, pure traditional climbing without a lot of like face holes that you can use around the crack. And that's fairly unique for Nelson. There isn't a lot of really kind of pure crack climbing here, so it was kind of a cool find.
Okay, hang on a second. How did they find this place?
That's a whole other story, Mitch. In short, using LiDAR.
LiDAR.
The letters stand for light detection and ranging. It's a remote sensing method that uses laser light to measure distances and create 3D models of the Earth's surface that they can then scour for new climbing areas. Ryan's a geoscientist, so he's got access to the latest and greatest technology, which is really contributing to the explosion in climbing, especially in rural areas like the Basin, where we have so many undeveloped forested valleys that could be obscuring great climbing crags, exactly like this one.
So how many different crags have the Williams brothers found? And do you know how many routes in total they've set in the West Kootenay? How long does it take to set a route? So many questions.
I know. It's all so interesting. Here's what they told me.
Yeah, so we were just trying to total all that up, and it is a little difficult, but I think we came to well over 100 for myself.
Oh my gosh.
Over 5 or 6 different crags at this point.
Okay.
And then I'll pass you over to Ryan here.
Yeah, what about you, Ryan?
Yeah, and then I think I've probably done close to 50 now over 4 different crags. So, yeah, it's been a busy few years.
How long would you say it takes to do a route? Kind of from start to finish and having it be available for the general public to just come and climb?
A lot of it is to do with just how much work you have to put into removing the moss from the route, cleaning the dirt off, removing any loose blocks or dangerous rock.
I think by the time it's all said and done and you put the anchors in, you scrub it, you do a couple passes of cleaning it and to get it ready, it's probably about a day a route. Like 8 hours of work for each route, I would say.
What's your guys' goals for completing by the end of the season this year?
I think given the number of people that are involved up here, I think it's probably realistic to develop the whole Empire Wall. So, I think that would put us at 50 to 60 pitches of climbing. So I think that's kind of I think that's sort of everyone's focus this year.
They said they'll have the whole thing done this season, and there's about a dozen other local climbers who've been helping out. Some are also setting routes. Others are doing crag maintenance, helping to clean the rock face, also helping to clear a proper trail to the cliffs. As you can imagine, Mitch, Nick and Ryan had some serious bushwhacking to do when they first started developing the Empire Wall back in the spring.
I think I already know the answer to this question. Did you try any of the routes while you were there?
Of course! It was such a beautiful granite cliff. about 30 meters tall and with perfect splitter cracks, as we say in climbing. I tried one of the easier routes, a 5.9 rated climb that they named the Emperor's New Clothes. All right, so whose baby is this? Is this a Nick or a Ryan route?
This is a Nick route. And this one actually took quite a lot of effort to clean as well.
It was mossy?
There was just so much dirt in the crack. So if you look at the route, you can see it's quite a wide crack in a corner. Mm-hmm. And when you get that, what often happens is you get chalk stones and stuff in the crack that are stuck in there, and then dirt falls down from the top, and the whole thing fills up with dirt. So this one took a lot of effort to clean, probably more like 2 days instead of one like we were talking about before. So it's really rewarding that it actually ended up being a pretty fun route.
I'm psyched to try it. Okay, so I am tied in here. If you want to just give me a quick check.
Yeah, and I'll lock my beaner there too.
Okay.
And yeah, that looks good.
All right.
I think you're ready to go.
Climbing.
Climb on.
Did you send?
For listeners who don't rock climb, Mitch is asking me if I finished the route without falling or using my rope to rest. And I did. It was a really fun route. Nick's a talented route setter. They both are. And the rock itself is world class. It was BC inland temperate rainforest climbing at its finest. To find out about all of these new areas and climbs being developed, Nick created an app. He's a web GIS developer when he's not developing climbing crags. The app is kind of a mouthful, Mitch, but I'm going to try it anyways. So in your browser, you would type the https:// norns, NORNS, climbing.up.railway.app. It's got all the info in there, including new routes still in progress. And I should mention that the Empire Wall is just a small part of it. The app details a larger climbing area that they're calling Norns Bluffs. There are 5 other walls with nearly 90 more routes spread between them. Those were last year's big development project. Also in there is nearby Pass Creek, another dozen walls recently developed with more than 115 routes between them.
This is all very cool and makes me want to climb on, as they say. Who else did you talk to?
I also spoke with Alan Rollin. He's the owner of West Kootenay Adventure Tours. He literally wrote the book on bouldering in the area. I'm going to let him explain what bouldering is.
I would describe bouldering as basically blocks that have either fallen off a cliff or been eroded over time, kind of smaller rocks, and you're basically trying to find the most difficult path, usually up the boulder. So you have pads underneath, so you don't use ropes, and you're just trying to pack as much punch into a small space on the rock as possible.
Where are you guys in this interview, Jamie? It sounds like it's raining.
Yeah, we were at a bouldering area Alan's been developing and got caught in a sudden downpour. So while we were talking, we were actually sitting on bouldering crash pads inside a rock cavern with both of our dogs, completely sheltered from the rain. The area is called the Weimer Zone.
So it's located a few minutes south of the little village of Weimer, which is 20 minutes from Nelson on the Salmo River. It's a popular local swimming hole. And basically we have about 35 boulder problems here, just rested above the river with amazing cliffs above that host almost 20 routes. And it's this really super unique sticky granite that we don't really get around here that much. Should be more reminiscent of a place around Squamish.
Sticky, so like your hands and your feet stick well to it?
Yeah. I call it Velcro rock.
Well, I'm looking at it right now too, and yeah, it does look textured.
Yeah.
In general, about how tall are these routes?
Like between 5 and 15 feet tall.
Got it. And apparently the West Kootenays is becoming a really a great place for bouldering. Yeah?
Yeah, I think it's starting to get on people's radar as like a destination. Squamish being probably one of the most popular places in the country for it is great, but they often don't have the weather in as long of a season, and it's gotten a lot more crowded, so I think people are starting to look outside the box for really good places to climb.
How many bouldering problems would you say you've set in the West Kootenays? A guess.
Well over 1,000.
Is it fair to say you're a professional climbing route developer?
I would love to get paid full-time to develop routes, but it's definitely one of those passions that it's kind of like as much of an interesting pastime as climbing itself for me. I think finding the new line and discovering new places is just as exciting as climbing them.
Alan's routes are so good, like legendary. I know the Cube Climbing Gym in Nelson pays him to set routes indoors there, and even those are legendary, and they're indoors on plastic holds. Like I mentioned earlier, he wrote the West Kootenay Bouldering Guidebook. It was published in 2020 and covers the Slocan, Castlegar, and Nelson areas. And listen to this. When the Bouldering Guidebook came out, there were 960 bouldering problems included. Alan told me that when he moved here in 2013, there were like only 80 total. And here's where it gets really crazy. He just submitted the manuscript for the second edition of the guidebook, and there's nearly 1,800 bouldering problems. There's no place else in Canada that's seen this much growth. And right now, it's all about Castlegar, like it's going off.
What are you working on right now in terms of either problem setting or climbing area development? Like, what's your big project going on?
There is a series of bluffs and boulders along the south side of the Columbia River from downtown Castlegar all the way out to the Keenly Side Dam that are all shady and north facing. So I've developed 3 different bouldering areas out there so far this year. They're all works in progress. And then there's this amazing 25 meter tall north facing cliff right downtown Castlegar that we've been working on.
Wow, this is all pretty incredible, Jamie. So all this land where the development is happening, is it private or what's the deal?
That's a great question. The short answer is it depends. Some of it's private. The one in downtown Castlegar is privately owned and being set up as a recreation area by the owner, which is so cool. There's a climbing area near the Keenly Side Dam that's owned by BC Hydro, and the Castlegar Trails Society leases it from them to create trails and climbing routes. Others are rec sites or Crown land. The Empire Wall is Crown land.
And you're allowed to do this on Crown land?
Yep. I even double-checked it with the BC Land Use Policy Permissions document. It says, and I quote, "Any person may use Crown land, including aquatic Crown land, for transitory activities such as hiking, rock climbing, boating, water skiing, swimming, snow skiing, non-commercial filming/photography, location scouting is acceptable, birdwatching, horseback riding, caving, and snowmobiling." Mitch, that's from Section 8.1, Transitory Activities on Crown land.
Ooh, you gotta love the Crown land. Okay, nice. Anything else to report?
Well, you know how I mentioned the Cube Climbing Gym? There's also been incredible growth in indoor climbing. So much that the Kootenay Climbing Association thinks the West Kootenays is positioned to become the climbing epicenter of the BC interior. We just need an anchor facility. Nelson is a logical place since there's so much nearby outdoor climbing and since we already have a small facility, the Cube, to expand from. The idea here is to build an Olympic caliber facility like the one they have in Richmond. So standard height competition walls and with all 3 disciplines of Olympic climbing available, lead climbing, speed climbing, and bouldering. Nelson would be able to host both national and international competition, and people would actually travel here to compete and climb at our gym. Professional climbers would move here. Local kids with big climbing talent wouldn't have to move away to the coast or, say, Calgary to train. It's a pretty big deal.
And this would all be not-for-profit?
Yeah, that's one of the best parts about all of this. It's one of the few nonprofit climbing centers in North America. So the Cube can provide, say, subsidized climbing for families in need. And the reason I bring all of this up is because I thought it would be fun to sit down with Brian Hansen, who runs things at the Cube, to talk about the growth he's seeing on the indoor side. It's just as explosive as outside. So we are sitting outside of the Cube Climbing Gym. Tell me, what is your work title here?
Yeah, I'm the executive director for the Kootenay Climbing Association. So that's the society that runs the nonprofit climbing gym, which is the Cube, and I'm the general manager for the climbing gym.
Tell me about the growth that you've experienced here at the Cube.
Yeah, so in the 10 years since we've been open, year 1 we saw just under 4,000 check-ins, and last year we hit just under 17,000, so over 4 times growth in the number of users.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. And it's really ramped up in the past couple of years, true?
Yeah, and that also, that's us operating at a capacity that I've set for the facility just on what I felt was a safe amount of people to be in and climbing. So during our peak season over the fall and winter, we usually have a wait list to get in, and if we had a bigger facility, we obviously wouldn't be having to turn people away. And yeah, with our youth programming, we've seen about a 3 times growth in that just by us offering more time slots for kids. We've created a competitive climbing team, so we have a feeder program that leads into our competitive team, which we call our developmental team. And we travel throughout the province with our competitive kids, and we also offer outdoor summer climbing programs.
The new climbing gym, what do you think that's going to do in terms of increasing the visibility of this place as a destination for climbing?
Yeah, I think it's going to do a lot. Just in exposing our youth to climbing at an earlier age and at a higher level. Having a full service gym brings in climbers from other areas that perhaps wouldn't want to move here just because they don't have a high caliber facility to train and recreate in.
Right.
And it just also puts us on the map for climbing tourism. Yeah, really, really exciting.
What's the timing on the Cube happening, and where can people get more information?
Well, we're hoping to break ground in the fall of 2026. We have the parcel of land, a lease granted to us by the City of Nelson. We have some key local industry partners on board to help build it, including Ktunaxa Lumber and Spearhead. And we just got a $400,000 grant from BC's Rural Economic Diversification and Infrastructure Program to move forward with the final design for the building itself and the climbing walls within it. If you want to track the Cube's progress, Mitch, you can visit the Cube's website, cubeclimbing.com. There's a tab on it for Cube 2.0 that has all the details, and also a place to make a donation to the project.
Well, Jamie, sounds like you've been very busy going up rocks and up with this project, so congratulations. Thanks for this.
You're welcome, Mitch. It's always a pleasure.
If you grew up here, chances are you've spent a lot of time at one of the many local hot springs in the region. It's a Kootenay way of life. The site we now call Ainsworth Hot Springs was first visited by the Ktunaxa thousands of years ago. For the indigenous people of the Columbia Basin, rocks have always been an intrinsic and important part of their culture. Jamie Moy has the story.
On a mild summer day in early July, I connected with Jason Louie, the Nisukin, or chief of the Lower Kootenay Band of the Ktunaxa, at the band's office in Creston. The Lower Kootenay Band owns Ainsworth Hot Springs. Jason told me a bit about its history.
Ainsworth, what is now known as Ainsworth, is one of many hot springs in the Ktunaxa territory, and it holds a deep spiritual significance to the Ktunaxa people. In our language, it is referenced as Nupika Wu'u, which translation to English would mean spirit water. And the reason it is referenced as spirit water is the hot spring water is very healing in many ways. That after a battle where our warriors would be at war, they would go to the hot springs to soak and heal.
Jason also told me that historically his people would drink the water, but warned not to do that today. The water at Ainsworth is now a commercial resort and thus currently treated with chemicals like chlorine, but it's still fantastic for soaking and healing. We got to talking about rock and the different cultural views of it.
My spouse, my significant other, her indigenous name is Rock That Sings. So that talks about when the water is poured onto the hot rocks in the sweat lodge, and it makes a certain sound when the steam comes off of it. So rocks are very spiritual to our people. It's our namesake. We use it in ceremony. They serve many purposes, even for protection. that we use rocks to as a fire guard with our fires. And worst case scenario, we have used rocks even as weapons. We form it for our different weapons, spears, clubs, hunting tools. That it is something that we need to change our thinking, that it is something that we need in our society and we should respect, but oftentimes we don't. Western thinking and philosophy and whatnot, it confuses yet fascinates me. Just it's a different way of thinking that many Western societies, cultures, they don't see a significance of rock. In our indigenous culture, we believe that, animate and inanimate objects have significance. So with the example of rock, that is part of our namesake. Yaka Nuki, place where the rock stands. So in the community, there is a location of basically this very large rock that was and is used for spiritual and cultural purposes. So they're seen as spiritual beings versus just this useless object.
We also spoke about the kind of rock that people like me like to climb.
But another way to look at this, all these mountain faces, these rock faces that we're surrounded with, we call these mountains brothers and sisters. They're all related. And they have an energy to them. Some of the energy is more intense than others. You think about the inclines and whatnot, that they have personalities. All of these rock formations, these mountains have different personalities.
I'm not Indigenous, but based on my time in the outdoors, Jason's words rang true.
And if it could be seen, and I'm not asking anyone to believe what I believe, but if you could just take in this information and hear it as all of these rocks, these mountains are a family. And it's important not to deface these families. Like I know sometimes I don't know the terminology for when you have to put in your safety gear into the walls. Just remember that try to minimize defacing and dismantling this family, that they're here. And if some kind of gratitude could be expressed for when you visit these families, that if you're good to these families will be good to you.
I was fascinated by the idea of rock cliffs having personalities. At the end of our discussion, I asked Jason to elaborate on this.
These places are like people. Some are more inviting, and you can probably feel that energy. Some, they don't want you there. And that's where accidents happen, safety issues happen. So, you can sense it too. You get to a place, you trust your gut. Like, I'm not feeling the vibe on this one. Maybe we should try somewhere else. Because historically, we didn't have all the equipment that's around today, but we also had times where we had to scale these mountain faces and these formations, and we were warned that some of these are going to have some bad feelings, some bad energy. You stay away from them. And some of them, you're going to totally feel it. You're going to feel at peace. You're going to feel good. So just trust your gut feeling.
And now it's time for...
It's a tiny town.
Welcome to Tiny Town, where we stop by those places we usually pass by. The tiny town of Robson sits on the shores of the Columbia River, just across the water from Castlegar. It's hard to find accurate census data, but if you combine Robson's small population with the adjacent community of Raspberry, there are roughly about 400 people. Robson is home to the Lion's Head Pub, known regionally for its tasty menu and craft beer. It also has a nearby feature that arguably you won't find at any other drinking establishment.
My name's Carrie Peterson, and I've lived in the area pretty much my whole life. My job, I manage the Lions Head Pub. I've been here for quite a few years now. I absolutely love it. It's the best place to work. It's like right on the water. It's really unique. It looks like an old-time English pub. We have 12 local breweries on tap, and then all the people that have cabins and whatnot down in at the end of Arrow, and there's that campground. So everybody that comes here camping every year, they stop in and have their beer. It's a dead-end road. There's a beautiful park at the end. There's a rock climbing wall behind us. It's amazing fishing. The boat launch is right across the river. It's actually pretty rad. The regulars are what keep this place going. They're amazing. Sometimes I'll even get like a walleye for a tip one day. It's pretty awesome.
In addition to getting fish as tips, Carrie mentioned the rock climbing wall behind the pub. What makes the Lion's Head special is that 40 feet from its back door looms a natural rock face called the pub wall, with about a dozen sport climbing routes. Just don't have too many ales before you climb on.
Robson gets the most sun in all of Castlegar. It stays sunniest the longest, so people are on the river late and up on the rock wall till late. It's nice.
And that's our podcast on Rock Talk. To find out more about the people and places in this episode, make sure to visit headwaterspodcast.com. The Headwaters is brought to you by Columbia Basin Trust. To find out more about all the good things the Trust does when it comes to supporting people and communities in the basin, go to ourtrust.org. The Headwaters is produced by the good folks at Kootenay Mountain Culture Productions. A big thanks to our reporter, Jamie Moy. Good luck with the cube. Tara Cunningham is our story editor and producer. Graham Tracy, our sound engineer. Vince Hempsall does our digital content. Stacy Machowski makes all of our custom art. And Jesse Lee, our music. I'm Mitchell Scott. Thanks for listening.